Hello. How's it? Doing a little video just to share So, I started this channel a long time ago to share healing and to share how we can to share my own healing, and so that there was an idea of this great, awakening, so to speak. And the first clues were dreams and connections to the earth, trees, animals, and then this galactic connection, right? Stars and galactic beings and star beings, and learning from even Carl Sagan many years ago that we are star beings. We're made of stardust. And for me personally, a multitude of connections, disconnections, and then realignment is really the best way to describe it. In that, a lot of self-recognition has come through. In a relationship that I am currently separated from, emotionally, I experience what is considered narcissistic abuse and became extremely paranoid and full of anxiety because I had predominantly been being gaslighted. And in all of this, I'm pretty open. I think that if you ask me about my past, or if you ask me certain things, I'm pretty upfront, because I think we've all gone through things and done things that we regret and wish to change if we're growing. And also, there's the natural witchy part for me, which was like kind of like Harry Potter, because besides growing up under in a closet, which I did not do, I feel like most witchy people did kind of grow up in a closet, unless they were supported by other witchy people. And when we say witchy, I just say magical, connected to the earth, able to work with elements, able to understand beyond what is taught to us through via religion, our own family cultures. And I've shared some about groups. So I think ultimately I just want to start sharing as much as possible with everyone. To recognize the manipulation of said spiritual groups that invite people in and ask them to share so much information. My own self, I'm a talker. I like to share a lot of things. I shared way too much, I think, with people that I don't really know, and was actually, I do consider it called vetting, to be vetted for a literal narcissistic relationship, and learning that the laws of the universe are always working. Okay, so that was one of the things that I had discovered or learned before this relationship, and felt very self-righteous, I guess you could say, in my singleness, being the sharer of information and all that. And I don't think that one of the experiences I experienced was I was sharing classes with the said leader, and in retrospect I actually think that was all just part of it. I don't know anymore, but what I do know is what I figured out about myself. And what I figured out about myself is that, yes, I was in a narcissistic relationship. That I have codependent. I will always be in recovery of codependency, of trauma bonding. I have shared videos about discovering letting my own body show me things. And one of the big things that came through right before this relationship was, and during, was before I was adopted. So I was adopted, if people don't know. I was adopted at a very young age. And between the ages of birth and 3 months, at about 6 weeks old, I was burned completely on the right side of my body by boiling hot water. And I'd always known this because I have scars on my body. But it wasn't until one day massaging my body, that part of my body, in the bath, did all this, basically trauma came rushing back into me. And I could even feel heat on that spot of the body. And so I'd recognize that there's some old trauma, besides being adopted and besides being molested for years. There was a trauma that I couldn't see, and that was it. And that initial trauma pushed me out of my body, and then I've just been continuing to do that up until really now. And being in the narcissistic relationship is what taught me this about myself, what I needed to change, and how I see myself as far as worthiness. Being adopted to a white family and growing up in a white community, I'm not complaining. I just want to state that I recognized an excessive amount of abuse in my childhood. I mean, I was constantly being bullied and being picked on until about 6th grade, where then rage just came in. And anybody who picked on me got their ass beat, okay? But I never really figured out why that rage was there. And I just kept shoving it down and shoving it down and shoving it down. And until this relationship did I see how much rage I had, that mirror is there, that is the laws of the universe, that's how things show up, so that we can see them, so we can say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, or why is this happening? You know, that tends to be the typical question, why is this happening? And for me, the biggest, hardest part was to not literally fall into a state of sheer hatred. And I did. Hatred for my partner, hatred for my mother, hatred for the world, hatred for everybody who ever hurt me, right? And through watching different videos and doing the work, reading books like Will I Ever Be Enough? And connecting to certain people, and even recognizing some of my basic relationships have a lot of that energy in it. Narcissistic, codependent, blah, 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 right? So in all of that, recognizing for many, many years I've not been heard, and I in turn internalized that, and then also reflected that outwardly and stopped kind of hearing others. And to be a teacher, or to share, you know, even to claim to be a teacher is somewhat, just to share, how about that? Because we're all teachers and we're all students. Was this idea that I had to be a certain personality to be spiritual and to share, I thought I had to be like this really good, sweet, nice, loving person, which I am, but I'm also, I can be ruthless and calculating and manipulative too. For survival, for just basic knowledge. And I think because I'm a female and being in this world of misogyny, which actually misogyny is the beginning root word of all the other things like patriarchy, subjugation of women, sexual objectification. It all comes from misogyny. And I actually think that that's really, they all kind of come together. The pains, right? It's this big freaking cycle. The pains of childhood from said wherever. These people grow up, they have children, then they in turn do what they do, and then the cycle just keeps continuing. And then the word for women who hate men and boys is called misandry. And I actually think that what happens, I don't think women have hate for boys, but I think some women do. And I think that that's where some boys end up really hating women. And so it just continues this weird cycle because we haven't recognized that we have all these emotions and pains that we actually have to work through. And sitting with our pains and sitting with our emotions and sitting with ourselves and realizing we might be, I used to write poetry and saying the fractaled selves, not realizing that that's actually what was going on, is fractured selves of self working towards being what other people wanted me to be. But I can only be what I want to be. I can only be what I am. And then that was the other thing. One of the things they say about both narcissists and codependents is they lack personality, their own personality. They're working towards being what other people think they should be so that they can survive within their own false self idea, idolization, or self idea, right? What is the word? Why can't I think of it? Actualization. Okay. And yeah, it was in this relationship that I saw my first 3 basic fractures of life, and can see how I attracted that in. And now I'm at the point where I don't want to live in pain in a relationship. And I don't want to be reciprocating that pain back to the other person, right? No matter how much I want to. Because the things that are felt inside are just, it's somewhat unbelievable that somebody has the capability of purposefully manipulating in order to control and just to control, right? And I even fell into it where I stopped doing a lot of things that I really like to do. I lost that motivation. So I'm sharing all this. I don't know quite why. I'm a multidimensional being, and I think that we all are. And I think ultimately that's what I want to share. Yeah, I'm a healer. I'm also a goddess. I'm also a human being. I'm also a little girl healing. I'm also a grown woman trying to figure out what the fuck, right? Or what the hell, or what the heck, right? And we all are. So some of the things I'll share with you as far as like what I've been doing during this whole process. First of all, I just totally freaked out and had to see that my ego didn't want me to see some of my own mirrors in this. And I think I've shared this before. When I would go into anxiety and oh my gosh, I mean, my anxiety in general is is, I almost feel like the word is an understatement as to how the person feels when they go through a state of anxiety. But I had to learn to say, and I learned this from watching other videos, to say, whoever that is that's feeling anxiety within me, because sure, I will I've stopped doing it because I recognize when I step outside of myself. So I'm much better about keeping myself in myself, why I'm feeling things. But for all intents and purposes, while I was in that state, I would pretend that the person who was feeling extreme panic was not me, like it was somebody I didn't know. And I would say, is that person still lovable? Do you love that person even though they're having anxiety? And so I started bringing in that dialogue. And as soon as I would say that, this peace would come over and I'd be able to sit with the anxiety. And then sometimes it would dissipate quickly, and other times it could take days, honestly. And for me, in the relationship, I actually felt like my partner exacerbated my anxiety, literally enjoyed my fear and let it be a kind of a foundation for them to continue their manipulation and abuse. In all of this, the part that there are many things that happened where I was accusatory, and I'm recently finding out that in my state of anxiety and in panic, I would do things, pack things, hide things, and then forget that I had done it and blamed him. And there were things that did happen that I did not blame, and then things that didn't happen that I would blame, which I feel is part of the cognitive dissonance and the gaslighting that shows up. So there's a lot of second guessing of the self. Well, I started just saying to myself, I know what is real. I know what is true. I know this happened and this didn't happen, or this didn't happen and this did happen, in order to let my brain tell itself to trust itself. Because so many weird things have happened. And I'm at a place where I just, unless I know you, I ain't sharing stuff anymore. This is a different world than when I grew up, and I thought things were going to get better and safer, not weirder and less safe. But some of the things that have come up is, yes, I am a retired massage therapist. So I know about health and well-being. I know about meditation, yoga, practicing these kinds of dancing, singing. I have many instruments here. We have singing bowls. And so something that happened after I had just taken a short hiatus from the relationship, I just decided to start bringing all those things back into my life, regardless of the other person. And what's happened is they started doing all those things too. We started painting. And as much as there's separation in the relationship, these are things that I think are part of our reschooling. I don't know. What would happen if we created a school? If we created a school where even adults who are working through their childlike symptoms of trauma, drama, stress, pains, those type of things, but as adults, right? All different ages, to come and share expressions, write, paint, detoxify the body, a lot of carrot juice and celery juice, diatomaceous earth, calcium bentonite, walks, spending time in nature, and then sharing this part, which is It's just, it's uncomfortable and it's weird. And honestly, I can't stand it. But I think really what I can't stand is the part of me that feels this way, those feelings. Like, no one wants to feel rage and hate and anger. Not realistically. We don't want to have a nice, happy, peaceful life, so to speak. For some of us who have experienced trauma, we're always going to be going through recognizing that there are going to be those who push our people-pleasing side. And that's what I became. I became a people-pleaser on Facebook, through tarot readings and stuff like that. What was I thinking? Becoming friends with people who were actually business. And I did it all because, yes, I wanted love and family. But that's inside of me. And that's inside of you. And I'm not going to pretend that, I'll just say this. I believe personally that anything is healable. Everyone is healable. Everyone has the power to heal themselves and to help others through their process of healing by, yes, sharing, and to also, I'm not suggesting stay in a relationship where you are being emotionally, physically, or mentally abused. Never, ever. And to also allow yourself to see the mirror, but also to be able to say you are a multi-dimensional being. You have so many different facets about yourself. Some people are intuitive. Some people are clairvoyant. Some people are all of the above. And then also you have all these emotions, and you have your different astrological signs, and you have your different ways of belief and spirit and religion, and how to bring these all into life and be able to feel okay and well, and to be able to share if that's, or give service to others. My advice to me, and to share that with everyone else, is be you. Be you, be brave, and if the smallest steps, a lot of the information that I got out there is to take one small step, and my one small step was to start meditating again, to give control to my own mindset, because that is one thing that I definitely felt was like I didn't have any control over my own mindset. That my partner and my mother, who is also narcissistic, believing their untruths and their manipulations over what I know to be factual and true. And then just let my mind say, I have control over my own mind, and I can think of nothing. And go into that space, but that's the only peace. You go into that space of pure nothingness. Painting, art, being creative, and just really affirming your own self-truths and knowledge, okay? Basically, a warning is one thing, but I just want to say, if you have a spiritual guru who makes you feel like without them you cannot be healthy, without them you cannot heal, that without them you're cursed or you have all these things going on, that's a charlatan. Somebody who doesn't talk about their own experience, and somebody who's asking you to give more information to them about your life than you'll ever know about theirs, behind the guise of spiritual awakening, and that you're being seen. And also there's a lot of groups out there that still have a lot of hatred, racism, misogyny, misandry, predominantly the racist, power struggle is kind of going on. And they, just like where we see racism already, where people are like, yeah, well, I'm cool and we're friends, and then behind the scenes you find out that they're saying the N-word and all kinds of other derogatory things behind your back. That is kind of happening within the spiritual realm, as far as how even I bought into it, right? The acceptance idea. So true acceptance comes without any racial attachment, because if we're all star beings, and there's a whole nother video I want to do, we're all star beings, then that's the race we are. We're star beings. There's definitely information out there that needs to be known, like predominantly African Americans are not from Africa, unless this is Africa, the United States and South America. We were already here. The stories were manipulated. So many stories have been manipulated. So many truths have been manipulated. That's how I actually believe that narcissism can reign in the way that it does, and misogyny can reign in the way that it does, because we have literally been conditioned to believe lies, such as Santa Claus. I mean, there was a Santa Claus, but there's not some guy flying around with reindeers coming down our chimneys. It's our parents, right? And also, God is pure love and life and creation. So vengeance and all that, that's human. That's not divine. Divine has destruction, because life needs destruction, chaos. But intentional death and intentional pain is not God's plan. Okay? Not Goddess's plan. My God is a woman. Beautiful black woman, right? Actually, she's beyond that. Color, all colors, but the dark mother, the great mother, right? Dark like my eyes, because that's where we come from. Long share. See you next time. Next time, I'm do a little video about gods, goddesses, daemons, jinns, because, man, the more and more I research, the more and more I see the long-term manipulation of things to really have control over humans. To really have control over humans behind fear. All right. Have a good day.